Okay. Hello, my name is Chrissy Jenkins, and I am the patient advocate with Palmetto Infusion Services. Hope everyone's doing well today. I'd like to welcome you to our Community Connection Spotlight, and today we're featuring Epworth Children's Home, their new Center for Counseling. So we're very excited to hear about this new support resource for the Midlands of South Carolina. Today we have Frances Pope Hewitt as our speaker, and she is going to give you lots of good information about this new resource. Frances is a senior director of the Institute of Child and Family Wellbeing. She is a licensed professional counselor supervisor and a licensed addictions counselor. So welcome, Frances, and I'll go right ahead and tell us about this wonderful new resource.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to talk about this wonderful resource that we have here in Columbia, and of course with the beauty of telehealth, that we can provide it to anyone in the state of South Carolina. We responded to the needs within the community by opening a counseling center on Epworth's campus. Of course, we are not just for those who are in Epworth, but we are providing behavioral health care to meet the needs of the community, specifically families and children. We provide individual psychotherapy for children starting at age 5 all the way through the lifespan. We also provide group counseling and we do specifically trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. And what an appropriate time right now, right? With all we're going through, the pandemic is actually a form of trauma. Our whole lives have been uprooted and changed. And so people are finding that their stress levels are going up. Just adjusting to life, we're seeing a rise in depression and anxiety. And so please know we are another resource that's here in the community. I will say one thing that makes Epworth's Counseling Center unique, Chrissy, is we provide telehealth. And how awesome to be able to be in the comfort of your own home, or if you are medically bound to your home and are still needing clinical services, we are more than willing to do everything from the initial intake, the diagnostic assessment, and begin counseling sessions through the comfort of your home, just as you and I are doing right now by offering the telehealth service.
That is indeed a wonderful resource, especially during the pandemic, but most of the patients that I am associated with, the Palmetto Infusion, have autoimmune disease and, are very careful about, getting out and how often they're able to do that safely, just in a general sense. So a lot of them have been seeking out telehealth. So I'm very excited to hear how so many insurance companies and, programs are able to provide that service now. And I think it'll be something that continues on and really helps address that population that didn't have that option before.
Yes, we've been very blessed with the insurance companies, you're right, to provide the telehealth and continue providing that.
Right, yes. Medicare and all of those changes, have really addressed a need that's been there for quite some time. So that's one silver lining that's come out of this pandemic for sure. I wanted just to kind of speak to, and you already kind of started that conversation of the high level of stress, the pandemic stress. You hear people talk about quarantine fatigue, moral fatigue, the weight of the decisions that we make almost feel like life and death, cognitive overload, kind of mixed messages coming from all directions. And I think, on top of the anxiety of just getting through our daily routines, we have all of this new normal, all of these new long list of things that we have to do, not just to keep ourselves safe, but protect those loved ones around us. So the depression and anxiety, as we would expect, is rising. I think for frontline, healthcare providers, just across the country. So I really wanted to kind of talk a little bit to that about, what counseling might look like, what kind of, at-risk kind of behaviors that we might be, looking at within ourselves to say, I might need that little bit of extra help and be a little proactive and preventative. And just some of the tools in terms of some recreational therapy or things that we can do, right here where we are, just to help ensure better quality of life, positive well-being, all of that good stuff that we're struggling to, hold on to right now during these unprecedented times.
Yes, you're right. Actually, the CDC reported at the end of June that 40% of Americans are experiencing some form of mental health distress. We're seeing, like you said, a rise in depression and anxiety. And so what does that typically look like? We are noticing people who previously were able to function well, go to work, now are calling in with symptoms of increased depression and anxiety. They're fearful to leave their homes. They're, like you say, the whole lives have turned upside down. And another thing that we're noticing, aside from people feeling more tearful, sleeping in more, wanting to avoid classical symptoms of depression, we're noticing a rise in substance use, not just in our community, but nationally. And it's so sad, Chrissy, because, when you're on social media, you see everybody is trying to normalize, oh, it's happy hour somewhere, or it's, Corona time. And unfortunately, people are, resorting to a quick, easy fix to cope with stress. But as we know, with quick, easy fixes, there's also a consequence that comes with that. We're seeing a lot of people rely on just opening up their refrigerators, having a glass of wine at lunch when they used to be waiting until after 5 to have a glass of, with dinner because people are working from home. And so we're seeing a lot of unhealthy behaviors. And so it all starts and it goes back to what can we do on a daily basis to start with? And Chrissy, I always remind my patients and even my staff to remember that first and foremost, we're in a worldwide pandemic and everything in life as we know it has completely shifted. And it's important to get back to the basics that we are human beings. We're not human doings. And so often we are so fast-paced and so productivity-oriented that we are forgetting and leaving ourselves behind. We're just getting in a routine, getting in a schedule, and trying to shift with all the changes, especially with those who are dealing with children going back to school, or people like you were talking about with compromised immune systems, now not even being able to go to doctor's offices. Everything has shifted, and it's caused a dramatic increase in stress because we just don't know how to live life the way we've always done it. And so if we can take a step back and start with examining our own selves and getting to the basics, remembering that we are human beings, we're not human beings. And one of the best techniques that I like to do on an hourly basis and that I recommend with staff and clients is doing some rhythmic breathing. Because while we have no control as to what is happening in the world at large, what's happening in our communities, the things we always have control over is our body, our thoughts, and of course our choices. So before we mindlessly pick up for that next piece of cake, or before we mindlessly go for that glass of wine, what if one stops, takes a moment and does like a quick check-in? And it can be, when we refer to rhythmic breathing, that can be any number that one chooses. I choose to use the number 5. So what it is a sequence of breathing in 5 times, holding for 5, count to 5, and then releasing a count of 5. So you're breathing in up to 5, you're holding up to 5, and then you're releasing 5. Some people's bodies cannot do the number 5, they prefer 4, but it's just taking that moment and being intentional with your breath. Another thing too is often just to ask, what am I feeling? We are so accustomed to being so busy, we don't take a chance to say, okay, why am I feeling this way? Or why am I feeling the need to grab a beer at 12 o'clock in the afternoon? And then, okay, yeah, I'm feeling stressed, right? We all are feeling stressed. This is very common. It's important that we increase our social networks. And this is the beauty of telehealth. This is the beauty of what you and I are being able to do since we can't be, connected right now in person. It is odd. It is awkward. I'm so used to, engaging with people one-on-one. But, it's like you say, always finding that silver lining. What is the beauty in all of it? And it is allowing us to get back to our basics of just good human nature. It's important to get out and connect with nature and the natural cycles. Take a moment to get out and get some fresh air. While we are more isolated from the life we've lived, it's also given us an opportunity to become more self-focused, right? And to allow us to check in with ourselves. Those are just some basic helpful techniques that I have found most helpful, especially those presenting with a lot of anxiety and just the unknowns that all of us are going through.
Right. Exactly. And I think the breathing is always wonderful. I use that as a tool, kind of training our mind and body is so interconnected. And that's something that's so easy. You can do it wherever you are for a few minutes here, but practice is what makes it perfect so that your body can learn, kind of be conditioned. I think we condition ourselves to be anxious, that fight or flight.
Yes. And like you just illustrated it perfectly, right? Mm-hmm. Just the tense body. And so often, if we just take a chance to just stop and relax our shoulders and take a few deep breaths and then take a, sip of water, just reconnect. And I always like to ask myself, where are my feet? Where am I, right? Because our heads so often get ahead of us that we may be in the next week without realizing, okay, yes, I'm here on a call with Chrissy right now, right? I'm, reaching out to different people. I'm not worried about what my husband may be cooking for dinner or what the next meeting holds or the next report. It's all about just coming back to who we are and where we are.
I think as human beings, it is difficult to be grounded and still. It's not in our DNA, and a lot of people struggle with that. How do I change the way I'm made? That's why these tools are so important. A lot of them we use, of course, are mindfulness, and those are good little easy activities. I like to call them mental health vacations.
Oh, I like that.
Be able to go on a vacation right now, but we can do that right here from where we are. And there's some wonderful apps, wonderful sites online, literature, workbooks, all kinds of resources right now for guided meditation, mindful meditation, and learning really to take that negative narrative that we're prone to kind of let it cycle through. The way we think affects the way that we feel. The way we feel affects the way we behave. And once we kind of see that relationship, we think, that is pretty simple. We have the power to make things so much worse, so we can actually have the power to change that, kind of flip that script. So I'm hoping that people will see the opportunities for that now and reach out to other people. Community support is, we have to feel connected. We're social creatures. Can you speak to, I know we can't do a lot of in-person groups, but we're looking right now into the communities for any type of support groups that may become available. There's one in Columbia that started up for chronic illness and disabilities called Uplift.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. Any other resources you could think of that people might be able to do if they're feeling like they're self-medicating a lot and maybe having some reoccurrence of some substance abuse, or feel like that might be getting a little out of hand, or mental health issues that they've suffered with in the past? Is there any other online resource that you may offer in terms of a group through your agency?
Yes, the groups that we're offering here are more towards like parenting. If you have any clients or know of anybody who is struggling with just children going back to school, right? So I can't imagine having to, be presenting with and even struggling with a major physical health complication, and then struggling with trying to, have children being taught at the home, or even just parental duties to begin with. We offer an active parenting. But for those of our clients or patients who may find themselves even questioning, am I starting to self-medicate? Am I, instead of, recognizing that I am anxious, I am in distress, I am stressed out, I'm feeling sad, I feel like my whole world has turned upside down, and it's easier to pick up a substance or an extra pill that may have been prescribed, anything, finding those numbing type behaviors. From a 12-step angle, AA has a wonderful support group, and they have been able to do that online. That has been a wonderful resource to connect. Of course, SAMHSA has a lot of connections. That's the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Association. Their web link can connect you. And again, there are many social groups out there for anxiety. You can type in anxiety support groups, virtual, and they are just popping up left and right. Unfortunately, there is a lot of stigma associated with feeling anxious or depressed, even though we're trying to normalize that we are in a worldwide pandemic. We're in a new normal that we've never experienced. There is no shame in reaching out. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to even challenge within ourselves, right? You were talking about doing those good thought stopping techniques, examining how our thoughts are influencing how we're feeling, and then our subsequent behavior. And one thing I like to, especially for my visual learners, is to kind of visualize. So let's say I have a negative thought going in of, oh my goodness, I have a ton of reports due. I've got to get it done before 5 o'clock. There's just never enough time. That negative catastrophic thinking. Sometimes to imagine a stop sign, and even doing it with, internally. All right, Francis, that's enough. It's time. And so it's important even to have your accountability buddy to be able to call up during the day and say, you know what, I'm really having some stinking thinking, and I need to give it to you so I don't continue to take it. So it's important to also find a very trusted confidant and friend who you can say, you know what, I'm feeling vulnerable, and someone that will not share your information. And just give us a call or someone else. It's just so important, like we were talking about, to stay connected. We need each other now more than we ever have. And it doesn't mean that if someone calls in asking help for counseling, that something is intrinsically wrong with them. And that's why we're seeing a rise in counseling services. Even for us, we're seeing a huge increase in referrals now. It's because people just need someone to talk to and to normalize that what they're feeling, there is nothing wrong with feeling anxious and stressed. And let us help you better your coping skill arsenal, increase your toolkit so it doesn't turn into a major mental health disorder. Go ahead and get it early and let us be able to help you.
It is for sure a sign of strength to reach out and ask for help. We do that with lots of our medical issues, and now more than ever, I think all of us have experienced some kind of crisis, but it was kind of short-lived. We knew when the end was coming. This is protracted, this is prolonged, and even the healthiest of coping can unravel. When you were talking about the stop sign, that's one I use for myself when I feel like I'm kind of going down the rabbit hole.
That's right.
And I think right now, since we can't see the end, we don't know, we're going to have to learn to endure in a different way than we ever have. So being proactive, reaching out to that person, that support service is going to pay off so well. This is going to give us the benefit, like you said, to build up our arsenal, our psychological toolkit so that we'll be stronger and better for future stress that comes along. Hopefully we're going to have a little reprieve from that. But I think this is going to last for quite some time, and everything that we can do to be proactive and to feel like I'm doing something important for myself, that's going to make me be a better caregiver, a better parent, a better spouse, just to really change the image of asking for mental health when it's truly needed. I don't think there's anyone out there that hasn't felt stressed, especially during these times. And I do appreciate you coming to talk. Do you have any other thoughts or information that you might want to share?
I do. One last thing, Chrissy, that's very helpful is, how when we were children, we would often get put in timeout. It's so important for us to even put ourselves in timeout and not see it as a punitive thing. It's important for those who are working from home or who are homebound to have a sacred space within the home, whether it's just their own chair where they can go and have a moment where you can practice your breathing and just completely disconnect from the stress. And that's when we get into a lot of visualization techniques and even kind of some imaginary. I'm going to go into, like in my office, I actually have a particular chair that everybody knows. That's Frances. She's put herself in timeout, right? And it's actually, I've actually encouraged staff to do that as well, because then we know that when you're in that particular chair, you need 5 minutes to yourself to reset. Whether it's me having a cup of hot tea in the afternoon in my chair just to gather myself for the rest of the day. And it's so important just to own that so we can again begin to normalize that it's quite all right for us to practice self-care, that it does not begin after 5 o'clock or when it's convenient for family members. It is what is important for us and when it's important for us.
Exactly. And I like that you mentioned that, because it just has to be intentional. And I think it can be little. It doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of time or costs a lot of money. You can do it. Anyone can. If it's just that cup of coffee, to sit there and to, the taste of it, the smell of it, to actually let your senses engage so that you're helping your body relax and taking that little mental health break that we all need to get back up and do it all over again. And I hope people will seek out some of those activities online. There are lots of different scripts and narratives, and I've done some of those on some of our other calls that help with different types of stress, and they are so helpful. Once you understand and you practice that, I think you'll definitely benefit greatly from it, and it'll be something that you continue and want to share with those around you.
Yes, and our families will benefit from our decreased stress.
Right.
And also our physical health will hopefully not get any worse, right? Not necessarily stabilize, but not decompensate any further, right? Because as we know, the more stress we're under, it's affecting the rest of our physical health as well.
Right. And I always tell people, I said, when you're stressed, you're actually doing more harm to your body. You're releasing chemicals like cortisol that are stress hormones that are actually kind of wreaking havoc on your own body. So there are things that we can do that are going to ensure that we're not doing more damage, physically, emotionally, and all of it's interconnected, spiritually, financially. When we're not feeling so well, all of those systems. All of those parts of our lives start to suffer a little bit, and those around us might see that before we actually see it. So that's why those accountability buddies are so important to speak truth to those things.
Yes.
Good. Good.
All right. Chrissy, thank you.
I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to giving out the information about your resource. And I think we're going to be able to post something online in terms of your little brochure with the video that we've done today. But I certainly am excited to have that resource in the Midlands, much needed, and I hope that people understand how important it is to love yourselves and to do what's in your best interest. So thank you for your time, and take care.
Thank you, Chrissy. Stay well.